So it's Lenten season for Catholics, and the reason why I know this is because I'm forced to attend church every week. Nonetheless, instead of getting angry, I decided to, for once, pay attention to Mass, and this Sunday, which is when I write the first part of this video, is the second week of Lent, which has the Transfiguration story as the Gospel. Now, the Transfiguration story found in Mark, Matthew, and Luke has always been one of those strange stories I never understood as a kid. In the three Gospels, Jesus is presented as a human being. He was born like one, he looked like one, probably anyways, and for the most part, lived like one. But in this random story in the middle of the Gospel account, Jesus, all of a sudden, gets turned into a being of light, and two guest stars from previous seasons make an appearance, Moses and Elijah. Then a voice from heaven says, "This is my son, listen to him." It's a peculiar story, and for a long time it was one of those stories I just dismissed, largely because I just didn't know what it was about when I was a Christian. For a lot of Christians, it's a story that proves Jesus' divinity while being a man. However, this channel doesn't care for theology, only history. So what's this story about for the author? Well, to recontextualize the story, we need to be aware of what people believed about the elements in the story. The mountain, Jesus, the author's Christology, Moses, and Elijah. Let's start with Moses and Elijah. Whoever came up with this story first, either that be the author of Mark, or if he got it elsewhere and used it in his gospel, it's interesting how Moses and Elijah are the two characters used. Why not Abraham, Isaiah, or Jeremiah, or Adam? Well, Moses and Elijah can easily represent the law and the prophets respectively. That's one explanation you might hear from your pastor or priest. But let's look at the Gospels from the context of their apocalypticism. Around the time of Jesus, there was a belief that Moses, although he died, was taken up to heaven. I have a link in the description that goes to a 600-page document about Jewish myths from the Talmud, Mishnah, and others. But even then, we know this belief or myth about Moses existed in some way during the time the Gospels were written. The Epistle of Jude, a document that was written around the late 1st to early 2nd century, briefly mentions this. But when the archangel Michael disputed with the devil and argued about the body of Moses, he did not dare to bring a condemnation of slander against him, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." Contrary to what Christians believe today, the Jews of Jesus' time did not believe in an immediate afterlife. Some believe that there is only one life, as seen in Ecclesiastes. Some believe that the dead will rise in the end of time, as seen in Daniel and the Gospel of John. The heavenly realm was only reserved for God and his angels. Well, there's Enoch and Elijah as well, I guess. Oh, and Moses too. This leads me to believe that Moses and Elijah represented two types of people in the end times. People like Moses, who died but were raised to life to live in the kingdom of God, and Elijah represented those who were still alive when the end came, and so they never saw death like Elijah. There are a few problems with this very surface level analysis, however. For one thing, Moses died, but his soul was fetched by God after his death. This is not exactly the same as people who have died rising back to life on the day of judgment, because, well, it wasn't really the day of judgment yet. When doing this kind of analysis, it's important to separate theological and personal analysis to historical, as in the case of something like this, or something related to Christianity and religion, as it can be pretty difficult. It's important to remember that things change. Religions change, beliefs change. The myth I mentioned about Moses may or may not have always been the same. Beliefs about the afterlife change. History is always contingent. But anyways, that's my little high school analysis of the Transfiguration story. I couldn't find any historical studies and or writings about this story, so I kind of had to wing it here a little. So if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.